All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and begin. Eleanor, try using, let's try using Internet Explorer. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started then. All right, so my name is Isaac Bancroft. I'm the district ET here at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. I'm going to talk to you about the video production equipment and just some of the tips and tricks that I've learned as I've gone through and set it up. We currently have 5 schools up and running with our broadcast, 5 out of our 9. We're starting on one of our primary schools today, this afternoon, and setting them up and getting them up and running. So we'll have a pre-K2 building up and running shortly. All the rest are middle schools and an intermediate school and an elementary school. So we'll go from there, okay? So I'm going to start with the easy stuff first. Tape. Simple painter's tape. This will be very helpful in your studios for either A, taping down the fabric of the green screen, marking positions on the floor for your talents in front of the camera, things along those lines. Fixing things in the background that you never thought you'd have to fix with. Duct tape is sometimes too strong and you need to remove it. So when I go up, I've got some markings here on my floor that I put, so when I stand in front of the camera, you've got a good center action of me in front of the camera. I've got 2 cameras going on, one on either side of my table here. And so I recommend investing in a little bit of painter's tape. It doesn't have to be the blue, it can be the green. If it's the green and you have things on your background, it may disappear better. So that's always something to think about. You can always interchange your green screen with a blue screen. Now our kits came with the green screen. However, I've purchased myself personally a blue screen one. So it's the color of my coat. If I was in front of that blue screen with my blue coat on, I would disappear. And I'll show you an example of that later this afternoon, or later this morning. Okay, so painter's tape, get yourselves done. All right, the next thing I want to talk to you about, in our kits we received a big cable. It's a BNC cable, 75 foot. This is great if we needed to extend to from our cameras to give ourselves some distance. Now you would have to get some BNC to RCA connectors to go from both the video camera to the AV mixer that we receive. So you would have to have a connector on each end, and you can get those at your local Radio Shack or Best Buy or Walmart if you need to, or go through your school supply tech and ask them to buy it. So You just need to make sure that you have a BNC connector, and it's probably going to be a BNC female to an RCA male. Okay? All right. So for the purpose of this training, we are not using these in our schools. So what I'm going to do, and let me just give you some interesting tidbits about this. This is my boom light. Now, on a boom light, we need a counterweight. This is a great counterweight. This is what I'm going to use it for. It's quite heavy, and if we did not have a counterweight on this lighting system, the light is actually much heavier than the stand, and it would flip over, causing harm to children, and we do not want to do that. All right, so I've got myself a nice counterweight. The other ways you can use counterweights, you could always get a sandbag and some D-clips to do a counterweight, a small one. You could do, what I've used in the past is the big block power units from the old HP, the HP laptops. Those are the power units that stuck behind the desk. It's about this big. It's big, massive thing. It's quite heavy as well. It's a great counterweight. So this is what I would recommend, some sort of counterweight on these lamps. I'm going to go ahead and extend my lamp. In our kits, we received 3 of them and 3 stands. So the other stands, I did not pull out the other 2 lights because we were limited on storage here. But this is essentially what it is, the stand, and that same light can fit on this stand. Okay? And the reason why we do 3-point lighting is very helpful. This light will shine on me as a talent kind of in the background and give me a little halo because I'm really an angel. So it's going to give me that little halo effect in the background. If I had my other 2 lights, I would have 1 and 2. So one's going to be back behind the camera, one's going to be up just in front of the camera, and it would take care of any kind of shadowing on the back of on the backdrop if you're using the green screen as a backdrop or any other kind of backdrop. So I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm going to turn on my light and extend my pole. I do highly recommend that you be careful in the positioning of the boom light. The higher you go, the more danger you have to it flipping over. Okay. So if I'm in my spot, it gives me a little halo effect, and you'll see that in the camera in a little while. All right. So the lighting, the extra cables, and I've got some notes here so I didn't miss out on it. I do like the lights because they come with a diffuser right here on the front, and that's a really nice feature. It just kind of spreads the lighting out a bit, and it's not so harsh on the talent. Okay, so the green screen. Green screen. In our kits, we received 2 green screens. We received a 10 by 12 and a 10 by 24. So I've got the 10 by 12 up, and you notice right now it's just all tucked in to the bottom. I did that so when I was walking around, and quite honestly, my daughter, who's 2 years old, came and helped me set up last night, so I didn't want her tripping on it, so I pushed it back. For your talent, when you do get into your broadcast, depending on the role that you have, some tips for getting it out: pull it out as far as it can, and just kind of let it fall back in. All right? You want as little wrinkles as possible. As little wrinkles as possible. And this is where the tape would come in handy and taping it down to the floor so that your talents or your students would not trip on it. Okay? Certainly recommend no shoes. No shoes on your screens. Otherwise, you're going to have to wash them at some point. Now, when you do set up your green screen or you do set up a studio, I certainly recommend that you set it and leave it. This is not something I would recommend setting up every day and breaking down every day. For the way that I wanted this set up for today's broadcast, it took me about 2.5 hours. You obviously do not have that time, nor do your students. So think about a location that you can keep it set up and leave it set up. All right? Now, they did come with another screen kit, or the screen, and you could use that, put it over a table, and you could have a digital studio per se with a digital desk, and the students are sitting behind the digital desk or sitting in front of a fence. And like I said earlier, I'll show you what it looks like with a green screen that's in front of you or in front of your lap, so you can kind of see that effect. So other than that, the screen comes with the cross rails, and I've only got 3 out of my 4 up and running, connected. So you do have a little bit more space. You'll notice that there's wrinkles up here. If I had my 4th bar in there, I could stretch it out further. It would have less wrinkles. It just depends on the spacing that you have available to you. Okay? So for today's purpose, I'm going to push this back so I don't trip on it, because that's how I am. All right. Now you notice I have these beautiful orange clips. They came with the purchase as well. They're pretty much for that purpose, to clip the screen tight to your rack mount here. If you don't need them there, you can always pull them off and use them in another location, whether it's lighting, whether it's really just an extra tool for you. Okay. Any questions at this point? No questions? Excellent. Okay. All right, so next, I'm going to come over here to the intercom system. So let me zoom back out and over and down. All right, so I've got my wired intercom system. Now, in this kit, it is a wired intercom. That's a downside. It's kind of a con to the system, just because wires just make it hard to move around. So what you'll notice is these cables are pretty short, right? And there's a purpose for that, because they gave us extra long cables here. And these are 20-foot XLR cables, and I'm going to jump back up. Let's see if I can't back up. Okay, so notice how I have it rolled. I have it rolled in a circular fashion. All right. This is a really neat tip to know. And believe it or not, most of your music teachers, unless they're performance music teachers, do not know this. And as I talked to some of our music teachers in our schools, they didn't realize that you had to roll it a certain way. So in live production, in concerts, you know, going to see Black Eyed Peas or whoever else is out there performing, they roll them. And here's the purpose. Inside the cable, obviously, there's the wire. If it's crinkled up like this, it's going to snap at some point. So it'll make the wires go bad, the cables go bad sooner than they need to. The other purpose of that is when I'm ready to use this, I can just take and throw out that cable. Now it's all ready for me to go. I don't have to worry about twists and kinks in the line. It's all really ready to go, except for at the very end, right here. Okay. So there we are. All right. Now, what you'll notice here is that I've got a male and a female end, and I'm going to talk about that real quick, just so you are aware. And I'm having trouble seeing it on my side, so let me see if this. All right, this one's a little cleaner. The female. You guys kind of get the male versus female anatomy. Male, female. Male goes into female. Okay? That's how it works. All right. So, for the purpose of that, we are going to open up our intercom system. And now this battery is a 200-hour battery. And let me zoom back out here. This is a 200-hour battery. And after that battery is pretty much used up, it's about a 2-year use if you're using it regularly. There is a an AC power jack that can go in there to support the battery after the battery essentially burns up. The battery is not a rechargeable, believe it or not. It's just a 200 hours use, and then you use the power unit. So I would recommend keeping that power unit somewhere close by. Okay? And from here, I plug in the female into the unit, and it allows for 6 different connections. You'll see my 6 different connections here. Now, this is an intercom system. So I would have it on, and it's a super sensitive microphone with a volume adjustment on the headset itself, which is fantastic. So when I'm talking, essentially what am I going to use this this intercom for? It's going to be for everybody behind the scenes, behind the camera. Right? It's not going to be for our anchors. It's not going to be for our talents in front of the camera. It's for our video controller, our audio controller, our production managers, camera people, folks like that. Okay? So when they're talking, they can talk with a whisper, and the neighbor can hear it, and that way it will not interrupt the broadcast itself. If you have a separate control room, and I know some of our spaces, our schools do have that. Not a lot of them, just a small handful, have a separate control room. And this is great. We can talk in that separate control room, but if we're in the same location, so if my broadcast studio here at the DSO, and if I was running it in the background with another couple people, I had my superintendent in front of me, I would use this. I would use my whispers, and my talent in front of the camera, it would not get picked up necessarily. So it's a really great tool. Downside, of course, is just the cables. So I do recommend, if your school could probably purchase a couple D-rings, that way the kids could, they could clip it essentially to their belt loop, and they would have these. Can you say that again? Hello. Okay. So that's what I would recommend, just getting like a clip that the kids could keep it up off the floor as much as possible, keep it clean around them, and they can talk to each other. All right. Any questions on the intercom system? Okay, so Christine is one of my school ATs that has a broadcast studio, and they have a wireless intercom system which is absolutely fantastic. So they have battery packs that they charge every night, but their system is not wired. They do talk to each other during the broadcast, and you do not hear it. The microphones that I'm going to show you in a little bit are very sensitive, and the group of students there do a very good job about whispering and using their equipment well to communicate internally. Okay? All right. So any questions about the intercom? Seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Okay. Let me just push this off to the side, and I'll bring up the next piece. So as I'm talking about it, I'm going to kind of put my studio together. I don't have any of my cameras on. You can notice my tripod is camera-less, and I'm going to set this off to the side. So by the time I'm done, I've got a whole studio in place, ready to rock and roll. All right, so let's talk about the cameras. I'm going to start with the smaller one, the Canon camera. All right. Great little tool for our students to use. Some of the things about both of our cameras, so I've got the Canon and I've got the Panasonic. Great tools, both of them. I would let both my students use both of them. It just depends on how much wear and tear you want on it. Of course, I would use the smaller. It's a little cheaper. Great resource for students to do little snapshots around the school and things along those lines. So what I would recommend is, with this one actually, this is just a touch screen camera. There's no other buttons really other than the play and the power. So this is all touch screen. When you do set up your camera, some things to think about when you turn them on, when you set them up initially. You're going to want to turn off the demo mode. You're going to, otherwise, after a couple minutes, it's going to go into the demo mode during your broadcast. You're going to want to turn off some face recognition and a lot of the on-screen features, to help you see. And once it's on and ready to go, actually flipping the screen around so the talent sees it will get rid of any other on-screen displays. Okay? I also recommend having the power connected directly. And yes, there's a battery. I would say the battery is a backup for power outages. But chances are that battery is going to go down at the last minute or the wrong time during a broadcast or during a recording. So I certainly do recommend having your power connected there. For the purpose of our broadcast in the AV mixer, the cameras come with an HDMI cable. So it comes with an HDMI standard to an HDMI mini. And from there, the mini goes into the camera. Now, downside, it's a short distance. So you can only go that far from the mixer. Now, you can have your schools purchase additional cables, just standard HDMI cables. I've not been successful in finding longer HDMI mini cables to standard HDMI, right? There are little converters that you can get, so I would get a 16-foot, 25-foot cable, no longer than that, otherwise you're going to need a booster, an HDMI booster, and use the HDMI mini to standard HDMI. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in. When I'm ready to finish my my mixer, I'll be able to pull that over real quick and easy. So the camera is pretty self-explanatory. There's not a lot of things I would change on it other than the turning off the demo mode, turning off the auto shut off, turning off the face recognitions, and a couple other screen options. Same with this one. This one has a little bit more buttons on the top and around it. What I do like about the Panasonic camera is on the side they put the shoe adapter, and that's a nice feature instead of being on the top. The shoe adapter being on the side has really helped with adding in a wireless unit. So if I connect in my shoe adapter, it's off to the side. Now I can attach my wireless microphone unit, and it's off to the side. It's easily accessible, and when I go to remove it, it's a piece of cake. I don't have to worry about getting it twisted just right and adjusted to pry it out. I do like the ease of that design that they did there. Again, when I connect my camera, I'm going to turn the monitor around so that the talent can see the monitor. There's a couple buttons on here, a couple preview icons that stay on it if it's standard like this. But as soon as I turn it around, it gets rid of all those previews. How do you unplug the shoe adapter? Okay, so there is a great question. There is a button on the side. It's just a little eject button. When I grab it, I pull it right off. Okay? And it snaps right in. Excellent. Okay? So I'm going to put this off to the side for now. I'm not going to use the shoe adapter for this broadcast, but I could. And what I would do is I would just connect my wireless unit into it, and it would clip right onto the shoe adapter. So I'll talk about this wireless unit in just a minute. All right, let me connect this on here. And while I do that, any questions about the cameras, anything specific? No specific questions, okay? Now again, same with this Panasonic camera, HDMI mini to standard HDMI. Downside, about the same length that comes in the box. So I certainly do recommend that you talk to your supply persons and get some additional longer cables if possible. All right, so that's the cameras, quality, HDMI. Okay, so the standard camera, digital cameras, these do with the SD cards that hopefully your schools were able to purchase. We had to purchase the micro SD cards separately, of course. I think your district ETs can speak more to that. These do collect video, so if you wanted to give these out to students to collect video as well, that's another option for you. And both of these video cameras do take the standard HDMI card. And so I've put those into my standard, or into my cameras. That way, if I'm recording, it's going to collect somewhere. All right. All right. Let me talk about the camera case, or the Pelican case. So most of us probably say, what in the world is this for? Well, it's just a secure case. It's got a cushion inside. Okay. Here's an example of what it looks like. And on my side, guys, it's really dark. So if it's too dark for you, I apologize. There we go. So what I did is I essentially can just pull this insert out. It's just an insert. And what I did is were we supposed to receive the micro SDs for the point and shoot cameras? No. They were not in the buy itself. So I would talk to, unless they were specifically added, an SD card was specifically added. Now, what came if we asked for the extra SD cards for the cameras was the standard SD card, and they do not fit the point and shoot cameras. So even though some of our schools and districts received those because we asked for them, they didn't work anyway. So now we have a bunch of SD cards that we cannot replace or give back to the vendor. We had to go out and purchase the micro SDs separately out of our own local budget. Good question. I like that. Okay. So what I did for the insert is I pretty much set my camera on top of it, and now that I've got it all connected, let me take it off. I put my camera on top and put it, and then I just was able to break out the pieces. I just quite literally stuck my finger in there. They're all pre-punctured sections. So what I have in here is I have my camera and I have some batteries and the camera shoe adapters, and then I put in my wireless microphone set and then some power cords to the camera and pieces along those lines. So my lapel mic. That way, when I get up and ready to go with my whole camera kit, I just grab the box. I know I have everything in there, and I can go to a place on location. So great resource. I would put my Panasonic cameras in there because they're a little bit more expensive, and it's just easy to grab and go. Any questions about that piece there? Okay. So if there's no questions on that, we'll move on. All right. Excellent. All right, so next, what do we have? Next, we're going to talk about the microphones. Okay? I'm going to save the mixer for last because it's a little bit more detailed. So the microphone. Got a couple different things going on. So let's talk about the Samsung microphone. All right? Comes in a nice kit. It's a USB microphone, great for plugging in for podcasting, recording tutorial videos, things along those lines, readers, theaters, students recording themselves into photo stories. Great piece. The USB plugs in, it's just plug and play. Essentially, that's all it is. You can select it as your microphone of choice. For the purpose here, it also comes with a tripod, mic clip, and these mic clips are a lot larger than the standard mic clip for, say, music class. It's a wider microphone, and it also comes with the microphone is an XLR microphone with USB options. You'll notice the headphone jack is on the bottom, so if you do plug this in to your computer for recordings, you may have to change your output from the USB microphone to your computer settings for your computer audio or speakers. That's in your sound options. So essentially that's what this is. And the XLR is the 3-prong, and I'm going to talk to you about two different options here. You've got your 3-prong that would plug into the bottom, and you've either got your 3-prong that will go into your device, or you've got your 1/4 inch that goes into your device. Okay, and I'll show you the difference there. The great thing about our AV mixer that we received is that it can allow for either or. So kind of think about that. The other microphone received in the kit is the Sentinel microphone. It's a nice little, it reminds me of Bob Barker, The Price is Right kind of thing. What you'll notice with this one is that it has an insert in the mic adapter, and so if I try to insert this into a standard microphone, and I've just got a tabletop microphone stand, that insert blocks it, right? It's too small on there. So things to think about is that you can remove this insert with a screwdriver. Just stick it in and twist, and that insert comes out. Now, why would I use this insert? Some of our mic stands, say like a DJ mic stand that's adjustable with the springs and you can move it around, would use the smaller 1/4-inch insert, whereas our standard microphone stand is this piece right here. So it is adjustable and you can move it around if you need to. And it screws right in. Okay, so now I've got a tabletop microphone if I need it. All right. I'm going to, I've not used this microphone a lot personally. I would recommend this, the Samsung microphone. It's great. It's a wide area microphone. It does pick up a lot of audio, so just be careful with that. You're going to have to let your people in the environment know that we're going to be picked up on that, and any kind of audio. Okay. I will tell you with this microphone, it clips in and it's pretty darn tight onto that mic clip. So let me unscrew it and I'll play with it a little bit, show you what I mean. Okay, so once you get it on, it's pretty tight. All right. So here, when I first pulled it out of the box, I was like, man, this doesn't fit. You just got to push it hard. It's going to snap together, and you're not going to break it. And if you do, not a big deal. You can always get a new one. Okay? So that's how it works. This is a windscreen that came in the box for this particular microphone. What I do recommend, I ripped the first one that I pulled out, so I went to a new box and tried it again. Just be careful. You're going to have to just inch it on, or a little bit on this side, a little bit on that side. It doesn't go on very easily. You have to kind of, it's really snug. So what this will do is it just gets rid of the popping sound, or if you're going outside to do a broadcast with your microphones, it will reduce the wind blowing sounds. So keep that in the back of your mind here. I'm going to put this back in so I don't lose it. I'm going to screw it back in actually. Okay. Any questions about these two microphones? No. All right, tabletop mic stand. This is my personal mic stand. So you can get these, $10 somewhere. I'm sure your supply techs could work with you in getting something like that if you needed it. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to talk about can you connect the mics to the camera? Yes and no. So that would bring up the next piece right here. All right, so you're going to have to connect your mics to the camera. You're going to have to use your wireless kits to do that. All right, so what you're seeing here are two separate kits. So on this one, you notice the double antenna is a receiver. All right, same on this side. Double antenna is the receiver. Single antenna is a transmitter. So this one is just a single lapel mic receiver and transmitter. All right, this one is a lapel and handheld mic. So there's my receiver. Here's one transmitter. Here's a second transmitter. Now, I'm going to focus on this one right here. You can only use one of the transmitters at a time. You cannot use both of the transmitters at the same time. It will give you an awful squawk. It will give you some really bad feedback. How do I know? Learned it the hard way. I tried to use them at the same time and it gave us some awful squawking and feedback. Okay, so choose one or the other. Now, I would recommend that they're on the same frequency. Whatever transmitter you're using has to be on the same frequency as the receiver. Okay, and each of our receivers need to be on their own frequency. So this one may be 2501. This one will be 2503 or 2505. What you'll notice on our receivers is that they will never be consecutive numbers. They'll always skip a number, and they're typically on the odd number channels. So, like I said, 2501 may be this one, and then 2503, or depending on your receiver, you have to match it up to the receiver, not to the transmitter. The receiver may be changing channels by 5. And what that does is it just gives a nice clean connection so that there's no microphone interference between the different microphones. We had a production at one of our primary schools where we used 4 wireless microphone systems, and we had 2 students using something like this. Using something like this that had the receiver and just a lapel mic for the talent speaking, and then we had the choir had the handheld version attached to handheld microphones that picked up the entire audience area, or the choral area. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Here is my receiver. Okay. I do recommend pulling out your batteries after every use, and that will just save the quality of your units. And if batteries, if they do corrode, they're not going to corrode in your unit. You can clean out this tray, put in new batteries, and your unit is just fine. Okay, so I do recommend pulling them out after each use. Here's the lapel, and attached to a handheld microphone is the handheld receiver unit. How long do the batteries last? I've been pretty lucky with these. We haven't burned through them too quickly. We have, I would say, we've rehearsed multiple days on the same set of batteries. I would certainly recommend any live performance that you put in fresh batteries before the performance begins. Yes, be sure they're turning off the mics. That will burn through the batteries. Myself personally, I think I've used it probably a good 4 to 6 hours without it burning out. I think that's a pretty decent amount of time. Certainly, you're not going to get 20 hours. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think particularly this brand burns up too quickly, so that's a nice feature there. If your students are using it and they come in at 8 o'clock, your broadcast is at 8:30. They turn it on at 8 o'clock. Your broadcast ends at 8:45. That's 45 minutes that it's on, and it's only being used for 5 out of those 45 minutes. So you gotta have to kind of think through that and set up a routine for your students to set that expectation that maybe it doesn't turn on until about 5 minutes before the broadcast. Okay, so Christine mentioned they've been broadcasting since November and only on their second set of batteries. It's a 2 days a week broadcast. That's not bad at all. They're not burning through it, and that's a great feature. So each unit might be slightly different, but kind of keep that in mind. Right? So if I wanted to connect to the camera, I'll go back to that. There is a way for me to connect to the camera. There's an output. Okay? And I apologize. On my screen, is it dark on your screen? Because it's very dark on mine. Okay, I'm going to say that's a no. All right, so the kits come with 2 cable adapters. you've got just your standard 3.5 millimeter plugs, and you've got a 3.5 to XLR, all right? So the 3.5 to XLR will go into like a mixer or a soundboard. So if I was using this in a broadcast situation, I would plug this into my mixer, and the other end into my unit. And then this receiver unit is near the mixer board, all right? Now, if it was on the camera, and I'll go ahead and plug it in so you can see it on the camera since we're talking about that. All right, so let me get my shoehorn out and get all my pieces together. So I'm going to put my shoehorn on, right there. On the back of my receiver, I've got a clip, a belt clip, and it's going to stay there. I'm going to slide the belt clip into the groove, and it connects into the shoehorn for your camera. And now I'm just going to slide it on here. Okay. It goes one way. I'm going to tighten it down. All right, so that's part of it. I'm almost there. Now, on my cable, I've got it tied up, and I'm going to keep it tied up for a purpose. I don't want it to be out in the middle of my viewfinder. So I'm going to do my output. Now, stick it in my output, and it screws in. You'll know that's the area that you want. Now, there's a monitor, and essentially the monitor is like for headphones or an earbud. I'm sorry, I put this on backwards, and the reason why I say I put it on backwards is because my cable's going to run into my viewfinder, and I don't want that. I want it to stay out of the way. And if I put it on facing me, now my cables are behind the viewfinder, okay? And the mic insert is right up here in the front of the Panasonic. All right, so now, the way it's set up now, the only way audio is going to be heard is if it's through a handheld microphone or a lapel microphone on this particular camera at this very moment in time. Okay, so I'm going to have to choose. Which one do I want? Do I want a lapel mic or do I want a handheld? And I can only choose one or the other, not both. Okay, so that's how it works. On the Canon camera, no, I'm not seeing where there's a shoehorn or a connection. Now you may be able to add it. Let me take a real quick look here. I don't see any more microphone inputs, and I'm wrong. There's a microphone input right here on this side of the camera. Okay. Downside, there's no shoehorn attachment area, so you're going to have to put this clip in your pocket or put it onto the hand strap of the camera. And just be careful you're not clinking and banging it around, or zip tie somehow to your tripod if you're going to use a tripod, something along those lines. You're going to have to be creative there, but it will work on the Canon camera. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this connected since it's already there. Any questions about that? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. All right. Any questions about the microphones? The Sony microphones in particular? Okay. I'm going to put those aside. All right, folks. So essentially, that is the majority of the kit. Now, there's some extra little peripherals that came with it, such as some additional shoehorns that can adjust and provide maybe like a shotgun microphone can go on top, or different things along those lines. So that's the equipment for the most part. now we're going to get into the mixer. Any questions before we get into the mixer? Okay. All right, so just got some foam here to help me prop it up without it slipping off the table. Lovely VR3EX. All right, in the box with the mixer came a manual. If you did not come with a manual or if you've lost the manual, that's okay. You can find it online and you can make a copy or keep it as a digital copy. The manual will be your best friend with setting up some of your settings and understanding the audio components and things along those lines. I'm going to talk about some of those tips that I've learned, but just in case you forget what we talk about, you can go here. All right? So just a quick overview of the mixer. On one side, you have the audio. On the other side, you have the video. Audio, video. The screen is a touch screen, and these buttons control the same thing the screen does. At one point, I'm going to recommend you use the buttons to do a couple pieces of it, particularly when you do the green screening and things along those lines. I'm going to recommend using the buttons because there's a two-finger method that I'm going to recommend. It works well, and our students have been successful at this point. Okay, so that's the top. The front. There are audio inputs. You've got your standard 1/4 inch and your 3.5 millimeter. So just regular earbuds or headphones. Okay. I highly recommend whatever students are using this, they plug in headphones here. They are essentially the last person to hear the audio, and if they don't hear it, neither will the audience. Okay. So strongly recommend you get some headphones that are good, they're quality. And you can get some out of the Samsung USB microphone kit. These are pretty decent quality headphones, and I'm going to recommend you pull them out of those boxes if you need to. Would not go with the old, nasty-looking headsets. Okay. On the left side, if you're looking at it, okay, there is your audio input. This is where you're going to plug in your microphones. And what you'll notice, there's a larger hole in the center. That's for your 1/4 inch mic. And let me pull over my cable one more time. There we go. All right, so I just mentioned the 1/4 inch hole in there, the center. Now they're numbered by an impression number on the top side of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got phantom power for 1, 2, and 3, 4. That's what those are. And there are microphones, and I can't remember the exact name of it, and I would have to look it up, or you'd have to look it up to determine that. That require extra power, and this mixer will provide that extra boost of power to run the microphone. Now, the microphones we've received in our kit do not require extra power, I can tell you that. Okay, so I would start off with channel 1 personally. I'm going to plug in the 1/4 inch into the center hole. Clicks right in. All right. Now, I'm going to go to channel 3. I'm going to plug in my XLR cable. And you'll notice there are 3 bumps around the center hole. That's where your 3 plugs will go into. And it only fits one way. So either cable will work, and there's no right or wrong at this point. So just whatever cables you have will be the best. We've got 4 channels. Okay? When you do plug in your microphones and things along those lines, I do recommend that the power being off so that you don't spark it, and phantom power being off as well if you use that. Okay? So that is that side. I'm going to go to the other side. This is a MIDI connector. And my understanding of the media connector is allows me to have like a control unit away from this. So if I needed to plug in an additional control unit to run the cameras, I can do that from a different location, or gives me an extension to this mixing board. We don't have that in our kit, so I'm not going to go too much into that because I also do not know enough about the media connections to talk to you about it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the back of the mixing board. Let me zoom in for you. All right, so what you're going to notice, I'm going to start on the far left and work myself to the right. All right, let me get you in here. All right, so you've got audio in, RCA white and red, or a standard like auxiliary jack you can plug in your iPod. So either one will work. That's an auto or an auxiliary in. So it's channels 7, 8 on the auxiliary one and 5, 6 on the RCA audio. Auxiliary out, that will go to the, say to another PA system, or it could go to some monitors that are going to be in front of the students so they can hear. It's just going to allow them to hear a little bit better. It is, it will need to be balanced, okay? Now, you'll have your video in. You have 4 channels video in. Channel 1, 2, and 3 are RCA or HDMI. Not both at the same time. RCA or HDMI. And then you have to make a setting in the settings options area. Now, channel 4, you have RCA, VGA, or HDMI. Again, one, not all. Okay? So why would I use a VGA? Well, this could be a background computer to help with your green screening effects. It's a digital effect. I would plug in my computer from the VGA output to the VGA input, and now that's my computer. Okay, that's my channel 4. Channels 1, 2, and 3 will be a video camera. Or, we have not set up more than 2 cameras in our schools, so channels 1 and 2 would be a video camera, or any combination, really. Please note that channel 4 is a full 1080p HDMI. And the channels 1, 2, and 3 are a 480p HDMI. So if you have like a supersonic system that one of our schools does, and you have to convert it over to 1080, it's going to be on channel 4, which takes away your option to use VGA. We're working through another option here to allow for backgrounds and imaging along that way, but that's what we have for now. Now you do have some preview out. You've got components, or the VGA out, your RCA out, your HDMI out, and you've got a preview and just a standard HDMI out. So you essentially have 4 connections you can use for output at the same time. That's a great feature. All right. Well, why would I need 4, you might ask? Well, your control room will need 1. Your talents in front of a green screen may need 1. Okay? Your weather person, if you're going to do a weather segment, is going to need 1, because they're going to stand in front of the green screen, and their only way to know what to talk about is going to be through a digital output. The digital imaging is going to be done in the unit, and it has to go through the output, and they're going to be watching the output monitor. Okay. Audio out is your master audio out, essentially. This is for if you're going to use this in a live production environment where you want it to go to a PA system that's already set up somewhere else. You can use the audio out here. And your USB, that is going to be for your computer recording or live streaming. Here at Fort Bragg, we do our live streaming, and I'll talk about that briefly, and just in our reasoning behind doing live streaming versus computer recording. Okay, you've got your power and your power button and your power cord clip that just holds it from falling out. All right, that's pretty much the basics of what you're going to see with the mixer, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail, but before we do you have any questions for me? Okay, no questions for me. Excellent. All right, so the audio, I'm going to talk about your audio first, and we're going to talk about video. I'm going to need a few minutes to connect all my cameras and microphones and go from there. Okay, so audio. Remember how I told you to look at the manual? It's going to save you a lot of time with your setup. Well, I had all my stuff connected and my microphones are on and I knew they worked because I've used them in other areas, and I still couldn't hear anything. Well, there's this really cool button that's called the gain button, like right here at the top. And the way you set your gain is you put your audio on the 0 bar, which is essentially this bold one right here inside the millimeters. Okay? You're going to set your master audio so you can hear. You're going to give yourself some headphone audio, all right, so you can hear it. That's essentially your 0 line. And we can put them all up like that, but that's your 0 line. Those two are out. Okay? To adjust your gain, your talent will speak. You're going to see this button light up. And you're going to tweak this gain button. This is your gain is essentially your microphone sensitivity. So when I start talking, if it's on 0, you're going to hear nothing. And as I adjust this gain button, you're going to start to hear me. And you know your gain is set properly when the microphone in your audio is a clear, crisp volume before it starts cracking and sounding broken or sounding airy or there's an issue, okay, distorted. So when you hear it to start to get distorted, bump it back a notch. And you have the talent speak at a normal volume, at a comfortable volume, and that's where you're going to set your gain. Okay? For me, it's right about here. For soft-spoken students, you may have to do it about 3/4 way, but 2/3 to 3/4 is about the range. I would not get too full blast. You're going to end up hurting the mixing board at some point because you're going to have different talents get on there. This is really just a set it and forget it. You're going to set it the first time. You're going to leave it there. Those talents, that's exactly what it's going to be for them. Right? So if I have, say, I have my anchors on channel 1, I'm going to set them. My weather person on channel 2, I'm going to set them. My special talents or special recorders on channel 3, I'm going to set that. Okay. Guest speakers, they may have their own microphone. I'm going to set that. This one you may have to adjust on a regular basis. So say like principal, guidance counselor, information specialist, classroom teacher, PTO, anybody that's going to help promote the school in a positive manner, obviously. We're going to set those. Now, those are your 4 channels that were on the left side. Okay? You're going to set those. Now, at any given time, you may need to bump them up once the gain is set and your equalizers are set. If you need to bump up your talent for something, you can do so. All right? But you should not have to touch the gain at any other point from there. All right? So I'm going to bring down channel 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to bring up channel 5, 6, and 7, 8. And remember 5, 6, 7, 8, that's your audio in, your RCA red and white, or your 3.5 auxiliary jack. So those would be your additional audios. Now, what I do need to tell you, and somebody mentioned in our texting portion, is that you need to be cautious of copyright. All right, so here at Corporate, we are live streaming through YouTube Live. Well, YouTube Live does monitor copyrighted material. And I happen to be playing the music on my phone like I was for you before the broadcast so you could hear, just to make sure I was getting audio come across our live streaming. So what I did is I just let my phone play, and I let it play too long. according to copyright laws, it's 10% or up to 30 seconds, whatever's the less. And YouTube kind of caught on to that, and it terminated my broadcast. So now I have a warning on my channel when I go to set up broadcast that for 6 months, and this was back in October that I did, so I've got a few more months, not much longer though, that I have a warning on my account saying I broke copyright. You know, sometimes we have to learn it the hard way, and that's exactly what I did. All right, so be cautious. If you're going to do the live stream, be cautious of your copyright. It's best that your students create their own music. You know, create snippets of music using loops and different things along those lines. Okay. Now you'll notice that I've had my master control up the entire time. If my master control is up and I've got my audio set to where I need them to be, if my master control is down, you're not going to hear a darn thing come across or go through the output. So your headphones, you're going to say, my headphones aren't working, my audio's up on my headphone. Well, simple fix, bring your master up. Okay? That will be the fix. All right. So there's a column here. You may have noticed it if you looked at your mixer. It's your HDMI channel volumes. Now, this volume is coming from the HDMI cable. It's coming from your cameras. I highly recommend. Can I plug in and turn on? I can. You want to see it? Okay, yes. Give me just a moment to plug in my equipment. Okay. I'm going to plug in my RCA audio so you can see that channel. I'll plug in only one of my microphones at this point. While I'm doing that, any questions? I'm going to use channel 3, so you can see it in the window. All right. So what you're going to notice, you're going to see my lights bumping up. I've got the microphone in front of my mouth, and I'm on channel 3. My master is up, and what you'll see on the screen, you'll see the lights here with my lights bumping up here, and it's telling me the channels that are active, and then you'll see the output. My main is up, my USB is up. Okay, so if my main is down, if my main volume is down, you're going to see my channel bumping, but you're not going to see my main or USB. Okay? So as I bring those up, now you're going to see it moving and working appropriately. All right. Let me connect in the cameras. Okay. I'm going to use channel 1 and 2 for my cameras. All right. So now if I turn up my HDMI on channel 1 and channel 2, you're going to notice, and I'm going to turn off my channel 3, you're going to notice my HDMI for channels 1 and 2 are up. Okay, channel 1 is now up and bumping, channel 2 is up and bumping. All right, so I can adjust those. Now, I would not recommend using these HDMI channels, audio channels, if you're going to use an external microphone. And the reason why I say I do not recommend it is it will give you some echoing effects. So there's a delay between the camera and the mixer, not so much of a delay with the external microphones in the mixer. Excuse me. So if you're going to use HDMI audio or cables, I would turn off your audio completely. And that will reduce the echo effect. All right. If the only audio you have available is the camera, of course, you're going to turn off this audio and you're going to bring up the camera that you need until you get the appropriate audio levels. Okay? What you're noticing here, my lights are bumping up and down. I've got 2 green, 2 yellow, and it's hard to see on my view, but hopefully it's okay for you. 2 yellow and then 1 red. Green is good. 1 to 2 yellows is okay, it's good. Red is bad. All right. I would shoot for the first yellow or orange, and not so much the second yellow or orange. So as long as I'm getting where I'm at right now, if I get much higher, you're going to hear a distortion in your audio quality. So me speaking, I would have to bring up my, I'm using that one. So if I'm going up like that all the time, that's going to be a bad reception for your end audience and the overall production. So I'm going to bring it back down. Excuse me. Okay. Bring it back down, and that'll be a good quality spot for it. All right, so at this point, we've just talked about audio. There's an internal microphone audio here. And on each side of the mixer, there are internal microphones right here. Okay? These are super sensitive. They pick up everything in your area. So why would they put that in there? Well, maybe you're an announcer and you're trying to give feedback to your talents and your production, and it's going through your auxiliary out to like a local monitor for your talent. And this is maybe purely for performance practices along those lines. That's where I would use it. You could be a talent, or you could be an announcer for a broadcast. You may want to use that. But just know that any kind of tapping, any kind of echo, any kind of room noise will be picked up by these super sensitive microphones. All right? So we have not necessarily ventured into those or that particular tool just yet with our folks. And then you'll notice a USB level. Okay? USB level. Standard is about middle, okay? About 2/3 to 1/4 or to 3/4 is going to be about your level that you're going to want if you're sending it to a computer or sending it over a live stream such as YouTube Live, okay? If you hear just fine on your end and your audience says, I can't hear anything, well, chances are your USB level is down. And that needs to be brought up again. 2/3 to 3/4. I would not go much more than 3/4. All right. Let me see. Headphone volume. That's pretty standard, and it adjusts both headphone jacks at the bottom, the 1/4 inch and the 3.5 millimeter. And then the last one is your reverb. This one I think you can have a little fun with. It gives you your echo effect, things along those lines. So you could adjust your reverb in there, depending on your broadcast or your purpose. Okay? That's the audio side. There's a lot there. Just kind of remember, once you set your gain, all you're going to do is down here. All right? Master volume has to be up if you're going to receive any kind of audio out. And then from there, you can choose your channel 7/8, which is your auxiliary output or input, your 5/6, your RCA, or channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. For your individual talents or folks in front of the camera. All right, so that's a lot of information. I do understand. Okay, we're going to switch over to the video side of it now. All right, on the video side, I'm going to bring up my my output, and I'm going to connect in my computer. Okay, so you can see what it looks like. And this one is my computer. So give me just a few seconds here to fix myself up. Now the downside of all this is that you're going to have cables everywhere. Do your best in keeping them contained and clean. And when you do that, everybody will be a happy camper. Okay. All right. So what you see here on my screen in just a second. Yes. Okay, I just need to unplug so I can get this back. I can, yes. We do it one more time and split. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have to, I'm going to probably drop something at some point. All right, so audio, that's just one microphone. I've got plugged into my audio. All right, on the back, what I have is I've got my RCA input, so that's connected to my phone. It's got all my music on it, or my iPod, or an external laptop. So say you're going to do like a pre-recorded video, and you want to show that video on a broadcast or as part of it, part of a capture that you're doing. I would plug in my RCA into my computer or into an external audio source. So maybe I have that already recorded on my computer, and I'm just going to plug it into the headphone jack. So I'll plug this part into my headphone jack on the computer, and the video is going to be on my computer. I'm going to show it through the video channel, and I'm going to give audio through my audio channel here. So that would be a way to pre-record video before a stream or a broadcast. Okay. Oh, I don't want that one. Okay, so I've got my camera 1. Let me see if I can get my video to look better. Okay, my camera 1, my camera 2. What I have here is my channel 4. So this is coming from my computer. Channel 4 is coming from my computer into the mixer. And then this is my output. So I've got another monitor here I'm going to show you. So what you're going to see is essentially the green screen effects through this second monitor. And that's what I would recommend for your preview in the control room or the control space and for your talents. Okay, so let me plug in my cameras one more time. So this is channel 2. And channel 1. Okay. Now remember, I can only use RCA or HDMI, and I'm choosing HDMI for this purpose. I could add more preview outs here, and I'm going to input my USB. And this USB is out. USB audio and video out. Okay. So I need this connected to the mixer into the computer if I'm going to capture anything or do the live stream. So that USB is going to be your key to get it out of the box, essentially. All right. Any questions on the cabling? Hopefully that was helpful. Kind of see what it all looks like. Okay. Go over HDMI. What do you mean by go over HDMI? Okay. So I'll just do the video inputs one more time, just kind of, maybe I missed it. Okay. All right. So let me just unplug it all. I'll start over. All right, so for up to this point, we've talked about two cameras. So I've got two cameras that I'm connecting via HDMI cables. This is their standard HDMI pin that goes into the standard port, and then the HDMI mini is already connected to the camera. Why am I going HDMI versus RCA? HDMI's got a better quality, of course. You could do audio together if you wanted to do that. Not necessary. And I do not recommend it with external microphones. So it's just preference at this point. What are you more comfortable with? I think you'll see a better quality with your HDMI cable versus your RCA video. Okay. And I've got channel 2. Now it does look like they're crossed over, but when I flip it around for myself, it'll be on the right sides. All right. I'm not going to plug in a camera into channel 3. That's going to be empty. But channel 4, I'm going to take my computer and plug in my channel 4 so I can have my backgrounds. And you'll see that in just a second when I zoom out to show the display. Okay? So this is coming from my computer, and the VGA out, similar to connecting in a projector. It's the same idea. You're going to go from your computer to your unit in channel 4. Now, my preview out, I've got 4 options here. I've got 2 HDMIs, and I've got a VGA and an RCA. I'm choosing VGA just because that's what I have access to. All right. I could, if I had a TV with an RCA or HDMI channels, I could use those. I just don't have those accessible to me at this time. So I'm going to use my computer monitor that I pulled in from my office. And so this is my preview out. Whatever's on my output. Okay, good question. How many total computers needed to set up this unit, to set it up? Well, here's what I would recommend. Depending on the purpose and what you're going to do, like I said, at Fort Bragg, we do live streaming, so we are using 3 computers total. We've got 1 for our background computer, 1 for our live stream computer, and 1 for our scripts for our talents to read from. If you're not going to do the live stream, you could back it down to 2 and go from there. Okay? But I would say minimum 2, and 3 is for the live streaming if you have that ability. You could always do from your output, for your video output, you could always do the VGA pigtail and have multiples, or some of you I've seen have a VGA into a VGA hub, where you can have 3 or 4 different VGAs going out. So that's always an option as well. Okay. And then I plugged in my USB last, just so I can record it to my computer, and then I can show it back to you. All right. Get myself fixed here. Okay. All right, so let me talk about the channels. Let me talk about the video channels, and then I'm going to zoom out so you can see the end results on my monitor that's over here to my left, my right. Okay? And you can see it all at the same time. All right, so let's talk about the video side. This is our video. Okay? You'll notice we've got some lights lit up. Whatever channel is lit up is what the channel I'm on. You'll also notice that same channel has got a perimeter up here on the touch screen. So if I touch my screen, it'll transition over. Okay? Now channel 3 is black because I have nothing attached to channel 3, so it's going to be empty. What you have here, you have your monitor, you have an input. It's showing you exactly what's input into your computer for your video. You can switch it over to output. It's a single output. So if I go to channel 4, it'll show me what's on channel 4, which is my computer. Channel 1, when I step in front of channel 1. Channel 2, when I step here in front of channel 2. Okay? And you have an in and out. And an in and out, by default, will come up like this. So everything on the outside is your input, and your center is your output. Well, because we don't use channel 3 right now, or nothing's in there, I'm going to move my output to channel 3, and whatever channel 3 is going to be, should match something else. So when I go to channel 1 matches channel 3. It's my output. It's just my output channel. Channel 2. Okay. Channel 3 is going to be black, and channel 4 is going to be my computer. All right. So I'm going to go to, what computer do you use to capture? What program do you use to capture to the on a computer? Okay, so you can use the Windows Live Movie Maker, which is standard on all of our computers. You don't have to have any extra software installed. There is a software download with the VR3EX from Roland. I've asked to have that software approved. It is yet to be approved. So once we get on, once we hear back from the software approval process, it may show up on our ASL. But for right now, it's not on the ASL, the Roland version. The Windows Live Movie Maker, like I said, is standard on all of our machines, and it captures very well. Okay. Good question. Very good question. All right, so I'm going to move over to the buttons down here at the bottom. These are our transition buttons. So I can do a straight cut when I go from channel to channel. Let me do the output here. I can do a straight cut. Okay. Or I can do a mix, and you'll see a transition, a crossfade right now. And that transition speed is controlled by the transition speed knob. So I can go down to 0 and it's pretty much a cut, or I can do like a 2 seconds is up center. Anything, you can adjust your speed. So if I want about a 1 second transition between cameras, I can do that. If I want a 4 second transition, think about your audience. Is this appropriate? Nope, probably not. 4 seconds is a pretty long time. Okay. Then you can adjust your settings. I'm going to recommend you look through the manual. There's a whole section on the transitions and video effects and things like that you can adjust your video effects, and it gives you a description of that in the back of the manual. You can do a wipe. Okay, so this is the wipe that I had set up. It's just an angled wipe. Now, if you wanted to change the wipe between different points of your broadcast, you'd have to go into the setup after each point and change your wipe direction. I'm going to say simple is best particularly with our students, as you get started. And the more comfortable you get, the more risk that you can take or challenge you can add to it. Okay. There is a picture-in-picture option. So right now I've got channel 1. I'm going to do channel 2. I've got camera 4 and channel 2 online. You can see me in there. For your end audience, you can adjust where you want it to show. In the settings, you can adjust the size of the picture-in-picture. There's a split screen. Again, I'm going to choose channel 1. Okay, so I can be talking about the presentation now. It just takes the center of the video. So I'm right here in the center of my camera. It's also taking the center of my other videos. So you could technically have, let me take this off. I'm going to go to channel 2. Do side by side. You could have two talents. Side by side, essentially. Okay? Talking to each other. There we go. So I'm in there twice, but what I would recommend is having cameras on two different talents. They could be in the same location, talking to each other. And that's how a lot of our broadcast stations do it. They're in the same location, talking to each other, but they're on split screen. Okay. And then you've got quad view, where you can see all 4 of your cameras from there. All right? Okay, so now we're going to go up here to, let me talk about these buttons up here. So you've got your output. And what you'll notice right here, okay, so I can do a fade black. Maybe at the end of a broadcast or an end of a show, I could fade black, or I could fade white. And it just depends on your preference. Okay? Depends on your preference or your student's preference. What you'll notice is, see that light flashing above it? That's telling me that there's the output needs to be adjusted. Right now, it may look dark. Your end audience is going to see it dark or too white. Okay? It's whitewashed out look. With it flashing, it's just going to give you a warning. That's the problem. Okay. This is your transition speed. So when I go and do my mix, I can adjust that speed there. And this is my video effects. Okay, these are some video effects that I've put in place previously. If I can do more, Lord knows we don't need more than one Isaac. And I can change the coloring. You know, that's kind of a pop culture feel to it. Okay? That's the video effects. And this last one. All right, this is your chroma key and your luma key adjusting. So keying is the button. All right. Let me get my cameras. No, let me get everything set up. I'm going to go to channel 4. Let me get my camera fixed here. Okay. So when I've got my key on, but you'll notice when I stood in front of the camera, it didn't do anything. All right, so now I'm going to adjust my key. Now there's a difference. Chroma key, there's CHR, chroma. Okay, that's your background. So whatever background image you want, you need to go to chroma. Luma key, that's your foreground. All right, so say we don't have a green screen in our background, but we want to put up, you know, Fort Bragg news broadcasts or live on the web right now, something like that. That can go up in our foreground and be in front of us. I don't have that set up, but that's something we could I could set up quickly and show you. So let me show you the chroma key option. All right, so as I adjust my knob, you're going to notice I have a green screen, and as I adjust my knob and I tweak it, I start to wash out the green. This is great. This is the digital editing in the system itself. All right, so right now there's nobody in front of it, no talents. When I stand in front of it, you can see my hand. And in just a second, I'll show you the large screen. So you're going to notice like a halo effect around it, some trimming that needs to be fixed. I can fix that. Okay? So now I can put whatever background I want into my background and go from there. Now, you can kind of see that I might be a little washed out over here with the lighting. Depending on the color clothing that you have, the red will pop a little bit better. Anybody that has a green or a teal or a turquoise or anything that's got some green coloring in it, you're going to disappear. I typically have a green screen shirt, same color as my green screen that I wear, and with the students, and I show them that I can disappear and I'm just a floating head. All right, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So let me finish talking about the knobs and the buttons. Now, the Luma key, if I go that direction, so I'm back at center. If I go Luma key, what you're going to notice is you can't see me. All right, I kind of wash out completely. So the Luma key would take a digital background of a green screen on a digital background and put me as that green screen, and then put whatever's in front of that as, you know, like the text at the bottom of your screen, live, a news ticker of some sort. That would put it in front of my image. Okay. So for most of our purposes here at Fort Bragg, right now we've focused on the chroma key being in front of that. Okay. Now you do have your setup buttons. With the setup buttons, this is your input and output. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit further. Go the right direction. All right, so you can kind of see what I've got connected. So if I change from my HDMI input to my RCA input, I would just come down here, select it. I can use a touch screen, or I can use the knob up in the top right corner. And I can toggle between the two. And this is where I say you can only choose one or the other. You cannot have both running at the same time. Okay, if you're using your knob, you push it in to select and twist to adjust. Push it in to select. Channel 4. Same idea. Go from there. Okay. On your outputs, so the left side is your inputs and the right side is your outputs. That's pretty much where you're going to do your selections. Okay, that's the input. That's the in-out setup. Okay, you've got a menu button. That's where you're going to be able to choose your channels, your picture-in-picture, your split, your keying. So I'm going to go to the key. How do you output it to the computer? That's where you're going to use your USB output. It's all going to go into the computer from the USB cable. Both your audio and your video go into the output. Okay. So on my screen, and I do recommend you just get in here and look at the settings. It's hard to see from here, but you need to choose one channel. So a lot of questions we've had up to this point. How do I get channel 1, camera 1, and camera 2 to both be on the green screen? Well, I'm sad to say that you can only choose one or the other. The way this unit is set up is that it will only key a selected channel. Now you can select any of the 4. However, you can only choose one of the 4. So right now I've got my camera 1 as my green screen selected camera. I can choose. I know you can't see that from here, but on my screen, I can choose the background color of green or blue. So you can do blue screen, green screen. I don't see a difference between the two. I do a lot of my video editing in a Mac computer, in iMovie. I do notice a little bit of a difference in the iMovie software. That the blue screen is a little bit more crisp, my personal opinion, than the green screen. So it's really personal choice. Of course, our kit came with large green screens. I would stick with the green for now. All right. There are more options in here, and I do recommend that you take advantage of looking through those and adjusting the setups of that. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see my other monitor, and hopefully with the lighting it'll work okay. Whoop, wrong side. Okay, so you see my tape right here. I've got set up on my floor. That's my standing position. So when I go to camera 2, I'm going to be standing center of camera 2. I've got one over here for camera 1 as well, same idea. So I'm looking head on those cameras. Now I don't have to guess where I need to be, I just need to look at my footage. Okay? All right, so again, the color of, or the cables, they're a mess. You're going to just want to hide them the best you can, or just leave them out unopened. Keep them clean for your students, and if you have to tape down some cables so they're not walking on them, that's acceptable. Again, use your painter's tape or some video production acting tape that's like more of a fabric style. Okay, so I'm going to go, right now I've got my channel 4 selected. I've got my green screen on. I'm going to step in front of it, and there I am. So now I can talk about it. And this is where it's going to be important that my students or my control room is on point, essentially, for knowing when to change backgrounds, when scripts need to be changed. It's critical that your scripts and your backgrounds are talking to each other to know when and where they're going to be. A lot of the kids will think, well, I want to be in front of the camera. I want to be the anchor. And they're very important. Don't get me wrong. But the most important people is everyone behind the scenes. Everyone that's running this equipment here and a computer, and if you have an additional AV mixer or audio mixer, those are the people that are critical to making this a success or not a success. And the reason why I say that is because the talents could be absolutely perfect. But if your control folks are struggling, it's going to look horrible. Okay. All right, so here we go. Now I'm going to start playing with